Hey guys, and welcome! Like you might have read in the title already, today's video will be all about weapon recoil in Battlefield 2042 and how it is affected by different attachments. Cause even though my preferred setups are mostly focused on recoil reduction, I was wondering what kind of effect different attachments really have on the recoil, especially the vertical recoil, and how it looks like when you compare them directly to each other. And I didn't only try this for the many barrel attachments, of which we know that they have an effect on the recoil, but I also tried out all of the underbarrel attachments and ammunition types to see if there are any major differences as well. So during the last days I was experimenting a bit with all the different attachments and spent a lot of time shooting against walls with different setups and combinations. For this comparison I used the M5A3 because it's not only one of the first available weapons in game, but also one of the few where there are all attachments available except for heavy suppressors. But let's start with the available barrel attachments. For some of them, like the Muzzle Brakes or the Compensators, the in-game description is pretty clear and specifically points out the impact on the recoil. For example, the Champion Muzzle Brake is meant to reduce the vertical recoil but increases horizontal recoil. For the Warhawk Compensator, on the other hand, there is a recoil reduction in general, but on a decrease of weapon accuracy. However, when we talk about recoil control and reduction, we mostly mean the vertical recoil, so the upwards movement your weapon does when shooting. And just from the description, it would seem like the Champion Muzzle Brake is the perfect attachment for this. But is it really, and how does it look like when all attachments are compared to one another side by side? To make it visible, I shot against a wall on orbital from a distance of 6 meters and did not only use the attachments where the description already mentions a recoil reduction, but also all other ones like the shortened and extended barrel or the two light suppressors. And the result is pretty interesting. On the left side, you can see the recoil with the factory setup of the M5A3 using the factory barrel and underbarrel, standard issue ammunition and iron sights. Then there's the Champion Muzzle Brake next with the reduction in vertical recoil like the description says, and next to it the Arcom Muzzle Brake that works the other way around. It reduces the horizontal recoil but increases the vertical recoil. And I think especially the increase in vertical recoil is very clear. The horizontal recoil, however, seems to be similar to the Champion. The next two lines are for the Warhawk Compensator and the Tactical Compensator. And if you can remember, the description of the Warhawk says better recoil control, and indeed the recoil, at least vertical, is massively reduced. For the Tactical Compensator it is the other way around, and this one is supposed to increase the weapon's accuracy but on a loss of recoil control, and that's also what's depicted here. And then the next four lines are the attachments that shouldn't have any effect on the recoil according to their description. From the left to the right, this is the shortened barrel, the extended barrel, the 6KU suppressor and the wrapped suppressor. And I think we all can agree that compared to the factory setup, there is no significant change in recoil at all. So the only two barrel attachments that you should use when it comes to vertical recoil reduction are apparently the Champion Muzzle Brake or the Warhawk Compensator, with the Muzzle Brake having an even higher recoil reduction than the Compensator. All other barrel attachments either have no effect on the recoil at all, or they even slightly increase it, which will make your weapon harder to control. For the underbarrel attachments I did the same comparison, and this was also pretty interesting and sometimes even unexpected, cause none of them has a stat with recoil reduction or recoil control in their description. They are all focused on other stats like aim down sights accuracy or hipfire accuracy. For example, the Cobra grip increases your accuracy when static and decreases it when moving, and for the LWG grip it's the other way around. But no hints to any recoil changes here. The only attachment that officially reduces the recoil is the ADR bipod, but only when deployed. So how does it look like when all underbarrel attachments are compared to each other? On the left side there is again the factory setup of the M5A3 as a reference, and then to the right the BCG light grip and the rattlesnake grip. And what's interesting here is that even though these two grips are focused on aim down sights or hipfire accuracy, they also have an effect on the recoil. For the BCG, there doesn't seem to be a change, but the rattlesnake seems to have a slight recoil reduction even though its stat says it only increases the hipfire accuracy while it decreases the aim down sights accuracy. And that's also what my feeling always was with the rattlesnake, that there is more to it than only what the description said. The next two lines also show a slight recoil reduction compared to the factory setup, and that's the Cobra grip and the LWG grip. So the two attachments that I mentioned before that either impact your accuracy when static or when moving. Then there's the flashlight and the laser that doesn't seem to have any effect on the recoil at all, and then there's the underbarrel launcher. And this one surprised me the most because I haven't thought that the increase in vertical recoil when using it would be so significant, especially when you compare it to the next line, which is the master key, a shotgun mounted to the underbarrel that doesn't seem to have any effect on the recoil, even though it would surely have a worse handling than the factory setup or the grips, but for Battlefield 2042 this seems to be different. And the last line completely on the right, that's the ADR bipod when deployed, and just like everyone would expect, it has a massive reduction in recoil, but then again only when you are static or prone. That's why I would exclude it here. So just from the lines on the wall, it seems like the Cobra and LWG grip are the best choice when it comes to recoil reduction, closely followed by the Rattlesnake grip that also has the advantage of an increased hipfire accuracy. For the Cobra and LWG, the only question is what kind of playstyle you have. If you are more static while shooting, go with the Cobra, and if you are moving when shooting, then go with the LWG. But how does it look like when we do the same comparison for the different ammunition types? Do they even have an effect on the recoil, and if so, how big is it? Let's take a look. Just like before, I used the factory setup of the M5A3 as a reference, and with it the normal standard issue magazine. The other available ammunition types for this weapon and most others are close combat, high power, subsonic and armor piercing. And since all of them have a different magazine size, I shot all of them down to 20 bullets before doing the test, so I would shoot exactly 20 bullets for all ammo types. Otherwise this would not be a very accurate comparison. According to the descriptions, only the close combat rounds and the high power ammo should have an impact on the weapon recoil, close combat should slightly reduce it, while high power should increase it. The other ammunition types should not have any effect at all. As usual, I started with the standard issue on the left side to have a reference. Then there is the close combat rounds, and here you can not only see the reduction of firepower, but also the slight reduction in vertical recoil as written in the description. Then, right next to it is the line for the high power rounds, and here you can see the increase in vertical recoil as well. So if you want your weapon recoil to be as low as possible, don't go with the high power rounds at all. The next two lines are the subsonic rounds and the armor piercing rounds, and the subsonic ammo doesn't seem to have any negative effect on the recoil or on the firepower and looks pretty similar to the standard issue, while for the armor piercing rounds you can clearly see the lower effect it would have on infantry, pretty much comparable to the close combat rounds. The recoil, however, is the same as for the factory setup. So for the lowest possible recoil, you should choose the close combat magazine, but since this also comes with a higher rate of fire, lower range and a loss of firepower, this might not be the best decision for all weapons. The subsonic rounds that have the same recoil pattern as the standard issue come with a lower range and projectile velocity, but have the advantage of a lower muzzle flash and tracer visibility, so this can come in handy as well. But in general, I think the standard issue is the better choice most of the time, simply because of their balanced stats. And at the end, there's only one type of attachment left, and that's the optics. And I'm sure you all recognize that when you use a low zoom optic like one of the holoscopes, the recoil seems to be easier to control than when you use a 4x or a 6x scope. So I tested this as well with the Fusion Holo, the Raven 4x and the M11 6x to check if they really have any impact on the weapon's recoil or if it only seems like it. And just by the way I said this, you might have already guessed the result. There is no measurable impact on the recoil at all, but there is an impact, and that's because of the zoom. The three lines on the left show the recoil of the factory setup with the different optics without me trying to counter the recoil, and you can clearly see that they look all the same. The three lines on the right, on the other hand, show the result of me countering the recoil, and the higher the zoom of the scope, the harder it was to counter. Because the more you zoom in, the more you have to pull down your mouse or your control stick for the same result of recoil control. So when you have problems controlling your weapon, go with the lowest zoom possible and only use higher zoom scopes if necessary. That's, by the way, also the reason why I have the Fusion Holo equipped on almost all of my weapons. It's just much easier to handle. So to sum all of this up now, your weapon's recoil is mostly affected by the barrel attachments like Muzzle Brakes and Compensators, but underbarrel attachments and ammunition types can have an effect as well, even though it is much lower. Optics, however, don't have any measurable effect on the weapon recoil. Here it is only the zoom that makes it look like the recoil is stronger and that makes the weapon harder to control. So the best combination of attachments for lowest possible recoil and best weapon control seems to be the Champion Muzzle Brake as barrel attachment, the LWG or Cobra grip for the underbarrel depending on your playstyle, and either the standard issue, subsonic or close combat ammunition. However, I would recommend to use the standard issue like I already explained before. And for the optics, choose one of the holo optics with only 1.25 zoom or stick to the iron sights. But this only counts for the recoil, because all of the attachments have other stats as well that will affect your weapon in different ways, such as firepower or range reduction. So you should not only choose the attachment based on the recoil reduction, but based on what you miss for this weapon. If you play an SMG and you want more range, equip an extended barrel, even though it might make the weapon harder to control. If you play an assault rifle and you want more hipfire accuracy, you should go with a rattlesnake grip or a laser sight, cause that's apparently what fits your playstyle. But if you are really looking into reducing the weapon's recoil as much as possible and you don't care too much about the other stats, then go with the attachments I already mentioned. And that's it for today. I hope this video helps you to understand the effect that different weapon attachments have on the recoil of your weapons, and I will also do another video specifically on recoil control with mouse and controller, so don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications if you don't want to miss out on this. Until then, thanks for watching. I'm the Catwoman and you are awesome.